welcome back with Amna. So today I will be explaining about the topic of abdomen, which is I choose the epi-abdominal projection for us to evaluate together. So let's go. Okay, so based on the placement method, we will start about the positioning first. So first of all, for the positioning, we can see that the spinous process is aligned with the midline of the radiograph. And the second one, we can also see the distance between the pedicles to the spinous process are equidistant at both sides. But if you can see here, the sacrum is not aligned or centered with the inlet of the pelvis and even not aligned with the symphysis pubis, because we can see that the width of the iliac wing of size is more larger on the right side. So it concludes that the patient is rotated to the right side. So the question, how to improve the positioning? So we can adjust the patient until the mid-sagittal plane of the patient is perpendicular to the image receptor, and we can also see the distance between the ASIS with the tabletop of the image receptor if we do it supine. So the second one, we will go to the alignment. So for the first alignment, which is between the X-ray tube and the cassette, we can see that the distance between the superior border and inferior border with the edge of the cassette is not equidistant. It is slightly the X-ray tube is slightly inferior, that make it the upper border, which is the superior border, is much larger than the inferior border. And the second one, which is the alignment between the X-ray tube and the patient, is incorrect, because if you can see here, the X-ray tube, which is the central ring, is not projected into the center of the centering part, which is at the void lumbar. And the third alignment is the alignment between the cassette and the patient is correct, because the central ring is projected onto the centering part, which is at the void lumbar. Hence, to improve alignment, you need to move the X-ray tube a little bit upwards and the cassette a little bit to the left side until it's centered to the centering point and aligned to the image receptor. So, let us continue to the collimation. So, for the epi-abdominal projections, the superior border is included the 11th thoracic vertebrae spinous process, and the inferior border is included the symphysis pubis, and while the lateral border included the lateral skin margin. So if you can see here that all the required structures for the borders are presented on the image. Okay, so let us move to the exposure factor. If you can see here, the KVP is actually overpenetrated because we cannot see the bony cortical outline of the thin structure and the thick structure. Right, so the thin structure, which is the soft muscle, and the thick structure, which is the head of sacrum, cannot be visualized clearly in this image. For the MAS, it is adequate for the density and detail. It is because we can see the bony trabecular pattern of the thin and thick structure, which is the ilium, and the thick structure, which is the head of the femur. So, to improve the exposure factor, we need to decrease the kilovoltage power by the 15%, and we need to double the milliampere second to improve the exposure factor, so that the all bony trabecular pattern and the bony cortical outline required anatomy is clearly seen. Okay, for the marker, we can see the right letters of anatomical marker on the radiograph, but the placement is actually a little bit incorrect. This is because the right anatomical marker is not clearly seen in the image because the marker is cut off because it is placed at the region out of the collimation. So to improve the marker placement, you need to place the marker in the collimated field, and I would suggest you to put the marker at the superior border for the better placement to prevent any superimpositions with the regions of the interest. And last but not least is the aesthetic. So usually for abdomen projection, we use a film size of 35 by 43 centimeters to make sure that all infrastructure structures and all anatomical structure required is seen in the image. And lastly, which is the end letter, the name, the labeling is present on the radiograph. There is a patient's ID, patient's number, date of examination, place of examination. So we can see all the information that we needed on the radiograph. And it's also in a correct placement, which is not superimposed with any of the anatomic structure that we need to visualize. So I think that's all from me. I hope that you guys understand my explanations, and thank you for watching. Bye.